Okay, good evening, everyone. It's Thursday night, March 18th. This is the City of Athens Arts, Parks, and Recreation Advisory Board. First order of business tonight is the approval of our agenda, and there are two things that we need to amend and add to that that I know of right now. First of all, after City Council update, we need to add AMAC update, and Chelsea is our guest this evening. The second order of business is under new business arts. The fourth bullet point, art in public spaces, needs to be changed to art in city spaces. Art in city spaces. Are there any other additional additions or corrections to the agenda you all received from City Hall? Hearing none, take a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I move we approve the as amended.
Thanks, Greg. Can I have a second?
I second.
Very good, Catherine Ann. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Agenda is approved as amended. Hopefully you've all had a chance to take a look at the February minutes. Are there any corrections or additions that we need to make to the minutes at this time?
Yes, Alan, needs to be a correction to reference to Beth Braun. I believe it's spelled broad in the minutes. Should be B-R-A-U-N.
Okay, Beth's my neighbor, so I'm sure she will appreciate that. Any other additions or corrections to the minutes? Entertain a motion to approve the minutes as amended, or corrected, I should say.
So moved.
Second?
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, our minutes are approved as corrected. City Council update, our liaison for City Council. Beth is not with us tonight. So Chelsea, we're going to jump right ahead to you. You're next on the agenda with the AMAC introduction update and State of the Union, if you would, please. Maybe you can start off with just telling us who you are, a little bit about yourself, and then go into what you need to share with or like to share with us this evening.
Great. Thanks, Alan. Hi, everybody. I know some of you, but I don't know a good chunk of you. Just to introduce myself just a little bit, I'm Chelsea Moorhan. I now serve as the chair of the Athens Municipal Arts Commission, starting last couple weeks, a week ago or something like that, you know. So relatively new to the position. So I'm trying to create a little bit more collaboration between the Athens Municipal Arts Commission and the advisory board for APR. Just to let you know a little bit about myself, I do work for the university. I work in conference and event services. I am the assistant director to patron services, which traditionally I am the front of house manager at Memorial Auditorium, run the ticket office, usher, staff, concessions, etc. And now I'm helping out more with Baker operations since that is my department, and my head is still spinning at the fact that we're having a in-person commencement. So that will be fun, a new experience for me. I also have been working in the arts for 15 years. I have an arts administration degree from Appalachian State. I have an MPA from Ohio University. And I used to be the program specialist at Arts West. So you may know me from there. Okay, so we'll go right into AMAC. So first off, we'll start off with City Council did approve the extension of the Poet Laureate Wendy McVicker for an additional year. Due to COVID times, they decided to give her an extension. If you have any questions on that, Carol Patterson, the former chair of AMAC, is going to be the person to talk to regarding that. Carol Alt presented a mock-up of the mural that she is planning on putting on her private retaining wall. That's that large retaining wall that's just up from Congress on Carpenter. And I wish I had something to show the photo to you, or the mock-up, because it's a very cool Level 42. If anybody knows that band, I listened to them a little bit today. I've recognized a couple of the pieces, but it's going to be a really cool story about, it's either a mouse or a rat, I can't remember. But they go through kind of a journey through some Athens pipes. There's some musicians on it. It's going to be a really cool private property mural that will be very public. And then if anybody knows the name Keith Wild, he's been doing a lot of murals around the city, and he will be working with her. He has been working with her on that. Going into another mural, that East State mural, that's going to be on that maintenance building that's right in front of the community center. That's very visual on East State Street. I do have a photo to show you. Let's see if I can pop it up here, find which one it is. There it is. And so this is the mural that they are planning on putting up there. It will be in separate panels by each school. So the timeline for it is by the end of spring semester for the schools. And so each school will get a certain section, and they will be responsible for painting this mural cloth. And then Keith Wild, again, great Athens resource for murals, will be helping to basically put it back together. And then once all the panels are finished, it will be up to the city to actually affix it to that wall. I'm going to unshare if I can figure out how to stop that. Pause share. Love it.
I take it that's a pawpaw fruit right there in the middle.
I'm sorry, it's a what?
Pawpaw fruit right there in the middle.
Oh, pawpaw. Yep.
Right above the two M's.
Yep.
Any chance of getting a number on that train, like 1797?
I can put that or ask that of Beth Braun, who's in charge of this project. I'm not really familiar with the number, though, myself.
Founding of Athens.
Ah, that makes sense. I can definitely ask that of her. I'm not sure where they are in the process at the moment of actually getting the actual cloth, because they actually send the design out to this place called, I believe, Polytab, or no, it's Mural Cloth, but it's a material called Polytab, and they actually print it out like in real size, and then you can cut the cloth and you paint by numbers, basically. So I'm not sure where they are in that process, but I can definitely ask. Again, Beth Braun is the person who is working on that. Let's see, moving on, so we're not taking up too much time. We did discuss the Friends of Arts West. But we have had lots of discussions around that, especially since Shauna has been able to already apply for that 501c3 status for the Friends of APR. So we are, as an ad hoc committee, I am the AMAC representative. Brandon is also included in that committee, as well as Leslie Schaller and Sherry Oliver. But we had more information discussion this past Monday about the possibility of kind of having a more broader 501c3. So we are still in the process of talking about that. So hopefully we'll have some more updates in the future. We have also been working on getting, can you see my screen? Getting a key to the city made. So this key to the city was made. I was trying to find the information on the original artist, but I could not find it this afternoon when I was searching for it. But it was in the, I believe, the 70s. Somebody had made a bunch of these, a local artist. And so this is one that we actually have. And so we are working, Kelly Lawrence, who is an AMAC commissioner, is working with the Makerspace to actually get get a handful or several 3D printed plastic copies that will be painted to look like metal. And then also she found not a super local artist, but somebody in the area who is able to cast, and they will be working to actually get a couple of real metal keys to be able to hand out at the mayor's discretion. Let's see, and two more little things. Let's see, myself, Andrew Chicky, and Josh Birnbaum, who is another AMAC commissioner. We are working to create an art inventory of not only city buildings and public spaces, but also hopefully to broaden that once we get a little bit further down the line of doing like private spaces and or private property murals and things like that, and possibly even branch out to like OU locations. We're still in the early stages of that, but we are starting with city buildings and art that's located in city buildings. And then lastly, we discussed, I don't know if anybody has heard of the MAP project. Let's see, how do I get out of this? But I'm going to pull up the MAP project, or I'm going to share the email for everybody. If anybody, or not, I'm sorry, not the email, the website. So if anybody has heard of the MAP project, it's a great resource that Nancy Stevens at the university is working on, and it has basically just a lot of tours, walking tours throughout the entire area. And so we are working, mainly Josh is the one who's been working with Nancy, but we are trying to come up with a mural walk that's not just public property, but also a mixture of private property in there as well. So we have a list that we are working on. There's also the possibility of doing other offering up other tours, possible tours. And so we're hoping to talk with like the Mount Zion Baptist Church Preservation Society and create a tour that is around the history of the Black community in Athens is one of the ideas that was tossed about. So if anybody has any ideas that's not on that MAP project already, please feel free to reach out to myself or to Josh Birnbaum, who is the other AMAC commissioner, so that way we can start working on adding more into that MAP project. And that's pretty much all I have. Does anybody have any questions? Sorry, I just went right through because we have a lot of stuff going on.
Any questions for Chelsea?
I have a question.
Sure, Terry.
I have a question. With the MAP project, would there be QR codes with that tour? Is it self-guided, I guess?
You know, it is, since the weather much nicer lately, I have been wanting to actually start working on, doing these myself. But it is a self tour. That you just go to the website and you basically just, go through whatever tours. They've got museums and galleries, collections, sculpture, and things like that. I have not seen or heard of any QR code options yet. It is just the website at the moment. But Nancy Stevens is the main contact for that project at the university.
Thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions for Chelsea? Chelsea, thank you for coming and sharing all that valuable information with us. It's nice that we have these open lines of communication between two very, very important groups in the city, AMAC and the APR Advisory Board. Thanks again. We appreciate it.
Yep, not a problem.
Old business, Shauna. Kind of a perfect segue because Chelsea hit on 501c3s. Update on Friends of APR, what's been accomplished, where we are, and what you think the next steps are.
It doesn't feel like a lot's been accomplished, but there's a lot of hard work going into it. It's just a slow process. So bylaws have been drafted since we last spoke, and they're being edited and reviewed. Once we get those at least the way we need, we will be able to open a bank account soon and at least get that part of it going and start getting, maybe get some money coming in for some expenses and getting the bigger picture going. And then let's see, next week, I think Terry and I are meeting with some people to try to get the 501c3 process started and get the papers. It's a big form. It's like 30 pages. So we're going to work through that and hopefully get that filed soon. So, and yeah, Terry, do you have anything to add?
Just as far as the process and what we've determined, as far as which form we're going to file, the long form or the easy form. The parameters for the easy form is $50,000, which I think would be adequate for our first year. But with the opportunities I see with fundraising for the arts line, for the parks line, and then for the recreation line, I think we'll exceed that definitely in our second year. So we've been advised to go ahead and file the long form. So it's a process, but that's the direction we're going to go. And just wanted to point to offer that.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks. The difference is the easy form is 3 pages and the long form is 30 pages. So there's a lot of reading and deciphering, and it's a big process, but we hope to get that going really soon and get that underway. So fingers crossed.
But if we did raise more than 50 and we went the short way, we'd still have to file the long, wouldn't we?
I'm not sure. We thought we would just err on side of caution.
Sorry.
Yes, we would have to. I believe we would have to file the long. So go through the heartache and headache up front and get it right the first time. As I understand, and again, we're working through and being advised, and just to let AMAC members know, I will be reaching out to Leslie. She and I have emailed back and forth to consult her as well. But we can bring in money prior to having everything in place, up to 18 months, as I understand. But we're confirming that that's exactly what we can do. So not only is it a process, but there's the legalities of it as we start to move through the process with the IRS.
Good deal. Well, I haven't done my taxes yet. It won't be 30 pages, it won't be 3. So I appreciate you doing all those forms, Shauna. That's great. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Awesome job, Shauna.
Yeah. Moving on to new business, category number 1, arts. At the previous meeting, we had talked about, as we continue to strengthen the liaison relationships with AMAC and open up additional communication lanes, adding or formalizing an additional liaison to AMAC, even though we hadn't officially declared it as so. Brandon has graciously served on that ad hoc committee, and we've kind of relied on him to share that information with us back and forth. But we also talked about perhaps it might be good to add an additional person in that regard. I had asked Travis if he'd be interested in it. And he let me twist his arm a little bit, but he said he'd like to talk about it a little bit more. So I think it would be appropriate this evening that we discuss that and see if this is something that we want to do. Terry, before we get in that discussion, was there anything that you wanted to add to that?
I guess, for the sake of Travis's time and his commitment, and the fact that we've got Brandon on the ad hoc committee for AMAC, and Travis, strictly your choice, but my objective was to make sure that we had full representation on the APR board. And if that, if the board intends to, that those two people, designated people, would attend AMAC meetings, or just that they are the voice and monitoring arts awareness and that as a priority for our board. Do we need two people to serve or to attend the AMAG meetings, or just keep us on track? And so either way, however it works, I think is the right thing. So I'll leave that, right there.
Travis or Brandon, anything you want to share with us, or direction based on what Terry just said?
I mean, yeah, I don't know what the best answer is, but I mean, yeah, I just, because there's so like, my role kind of got pulled over because I'm working with the ad hoc committee, and so and I know a lot of the people there, but they're just, I feel like there needs to be more of a formal thing, because if myself or Travis were to leave, or both of us to leave, if that just gets dropped, then we might go back to old habits, and so if we can figure out a way of communicating, I really like having Chelsea here, but pulling Chelsea, there's got to be a way to have more communication, like you talked about, Alan. And I don't know, without gobbling up all of our time, because I'm meeting with Chelsea once a week, so I already knew everything she said today, which was great. But like now you guys know. But I just feel like there's got to be a way, just so when more of these major projects come up, it's not new. We're kind of filling in arts, and arts is filling in us. Instead of just like, what are they doing? We didn't know about this. There's got to be better collaboration. I just don't know what that is without all us just being at all these meetings all the time. But I will say they are online right now, which is great. So anybody can get a quick rundown of what's been going on the last year, which has been fantastic. You can watch all the meetings. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to serve where the need is. So, I mean, I don't want to, if things are working well as they are set up now, I don't want to impose on that. But if there is a clear need for more representation, I am happy to do that in whatever capacity you may need. So.
I think the second part of that, Travis, that Terry said is also, might not be the best term, but I'm going to use it anyway, keeping us on track, so to speak, with the arts component of APR. We formed the budget committee, and Greg and Daniel and I have worked on that and are going to make a presentation this evening about fees related to the pool. Obviously, that was something the three of us had an interest in, and we're able to pull it off. Catherine Ann is working on a project with her students and with Terry on racial equity, an area in which she has some expertise and the resources to help her conduct that research and to formulate a plan. Your long history with Ohio University and School of Dance and all of that, and your other arts interests combined with Brandon's long involvement in that, I think the two of you would be a great, not only representative, but an advocate for the arts, but helping keep us on track, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Because as I mentioned in our first meeting in January, I like to look at all three of these things, A, P, and R, Arts, Parks, and Recreation, as equal pieces of one big pie in our service to the city of Athens, not wanting one to get any bigger than the other or one to get shortchanged. And if you'd be willing to do it with Brandon, I think it would be a role that would kind of evolve over time. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure when each of your terms expire, but they will sometime. It would be nice to have some carryover transition as we bring another individual into that cycle, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm more than happy to be a part of that. So are you suggesting that we have like a subcommittee within this within the board, similar to
either a subcommittee, or we could go the route of formalizing it and having a motion in a second to point you to as the liaisons to AMAC and all things arts on behalf of APR.
I'm comfortable with that. Brandon, how about you?
I like it, but I feel like I don't think any of us have that role, like the budget. You know, like I know what you're trying to do, Alan, and I agree with it, but I feel like it puts Travis kind of on the hook for art. You know, like because of the budget. Once you guys are done with that, if that ever ends, if your Catherine's project ends, like there's something I feel like with this group that there's like a cross pollination. I feel like should happen. You know, like with all the members, because I agree. Like you know, like you also lose a lot of institutional knowledge if like Travis and I are the only ones doing it. Does that make sense? Maybe to start, I like it, but I don't know if that's making sense, but I just feel like in the long run, like, you know, Travis is at all the AMAC meetings, but maybe the budget committee doesn't meet sometimes, you know, so that's not a burden, but I feel like that's extra for a member. If that makes sense. I don't know.
No, I understand. And I don't think this would be a thing where, okay, we make a motion, we second it, we elect you to, appoint you to, whatever, and the other 5 of us wash our hands and say, okay, we got that covered. We'll see you later.
Yes. This is it forever, Travis. It's in stone. We can't change. No, but I think, but it's something just went off in my head. Like maybe that is something where, you know, like myself, who's not very well versed in parks, maybe there's something that I can, you know, board members explore different areas and then report back like in a rotating manner. I know this is like a longer term thing. I'm in the ideation phase, but yeah, I've worked well with Travis. I'm happy to, you know, to work with him and share whatever's going on with the, you know, Friends of Arts West and all that stuff. And just whatever I hear, you know, through arts, if that makes, you know, helps the group. So.
Well, I've never seen any bylaws for the operation of this organization, so I don't know if we're bound by something to have to make this official or not, or we can just go with a general person's agreement that for the foreseeable future, the 2 of you will serve as a liaison from APR to AMAC and all things art. Terry.
I was just going to point out that it may be helpful for you, Alan, to clarify the charge of the Arts, Parks, and Recreation Advisory Board, and Chelsea to outline the charge of AMAC, just for everybody's benefit and understanding.
That sounds good. And so why don't we do this? We've got it covered right now. And for the next meeting, we'll have official response to what Terry just asked for. See if there's anything already written. If not, we can formalize it and then take whatever action we need at the next meeting under old business. In the interim, though, I would hope that the invitation would be extended, that if Brandon and or Travis would like to attend via Zoom the next AMAC meeting, that they would be able to do that, because that's going to happen before our next APR board meeting.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Second item on the list. There's a little little irony in this. The Sells Park storyboard. I'm going to share my screen for just a second. If you've not been to Sells Park, there are 16 of these storyboard kiosks. This is number 1. Athens County Public Library Story Walk. Welcome to the Story Walk. The first story is Sleep Big Bear. And starting on this storyboard and 15 more is the story of Big Bear. I happened to be up there over the weekend. I can't remember if it was Saturday or Sunday. Terry and I and the dog and my 6-year-old granddaughter. And part of my reason for wanting to go up there was to start with number 1 here with her. She's in kindergarten, and we would go through all these. Well, she stepped up to the first one and turned around and says, Papa, I've already seen these. So much for that. So we hiked up the gully with our dog. Well, on the way home, I got to thinking, I wonder how often the public libraries would change these out. Obviously, they can't do them monthly, but maybe quarterly. But instead of doing a story from some author each of the 4 years, wouldn't it be neat to involve a local artist and perhaps a local writer to do this once a year. In fact, we can even take it a step further. Perhaps one of the public schools in the area, their art and creative writing classes, would want to do this. Nothing better than seeing yours, your kids, or a relative's or a neighbor's art being displayed in public or performed in public. Not only the visual arts, but also the performing arts. So Terry and I talked about it on the way home, and I let Terry know about this on Monday during our meeting. Well, lo and behold, Tuesday morning, Terry gets an email from Nick Tepe at the library with an offer with a possible grant associated with it to do exactly the same thing. It was kind of like Nick had found a way to follow us along that trail and heard exactly what we were saying, or maybe I was behind him in the Kroger grocery store. But exactly the same idea, to engage local artists to do these storyboards, at least on a periodic basis. So what I'm throwing out for your consideration today is your thoughts. And do you think this is something that APR advisory board can get behind and recommend to the department to pursue? See a thumbs up from Catherine Ann.
Sounds amazing. And the one thing that I would like to, put out there and encourage is that if we're using local artists or schools, whatever ends up being, that it's representative of various identities within the community as well, because I think that would be really important.
Yeah, that's one of the things that came up: racial equity, social equity, diversity, inclusion. If we're doing this once a year, we could rotate them around amongst the schools or local artists. But this display right now is wonderful. If you get a chance to go up there, I enjoyed it at the ripe old age of 65. I can imagine, young kids who are just learning how to read, feeling the success of being able to go from storyboard to storyboard. Oh, and by the way, APR is responsible for the installation, and the library was responsible for the content. So it's a cooperative effort between two entities here in Athens County. Any other thoughts on making that recommendation that Terry, as the representative of the department, go ahead and pursue the possibility of this, particularly since it could have a grant funding attached to it?
Are there other storyboards somewhere? I mean, I've seen those at Sales Park, but I don't know of any other ones, because I love it. I think that there's a lot of opportunity, but I just didn't know if there were any storyboards walk anywhere else within Athens.
Not to my knowledge, Terry.
When I met with Nick Tepe about the Sells Park installation for that story trail, we looked at Southside Park, which is a smaller park just south of Dairy Lane, and what we could possibly do there. One of the things that we need to consider is access, of course, and in our parks, that can be challenging at times. So I think the thought is to be able to change the inserts out at Sells Park, but to also add another story trail. Like Alan said, potential to be grant funded through the humanities department at Ping Center. So I think they would pull in students to develop content and so on and so forth. So great opportunity to collaborate. We haven't had our first meeting. We've just had a quick email exchange, which I then shared with Alan because he had mentioned it to me, and it just seemed like the stars aligned on it. So to answer your question, we could possibly have a second installation and continually to phase the project.
Great. Terry, could you then just keep us abreast of those meetings and the progress and anything we as a board need to do to support it?
Absolutely.
Okay, next item. I don't know if we need to cover this or not because Chelsea did a pretty good job, but the next item on the agenda is the maintenance building mural. Terry, was there anything you needed to add to Chelsea's presentation on that project? Okay, very
Not
good.
a thing. I was pleased that she was here to present on that.
Last item under arts today, art in city spaces. Terry, this is yours.
So we're working on a program that kind of aligns with the inventory thing I'm hearing from that AMAC's doing for art in city spaces. And right now we've got the gallery at Arts West. We're installing gallery at the community center. I've spoken with the mayor about City Hall. So we're loosely identifying city buildings to have art installations. I've seen this type of program before, and whether it be conference rooms, and it's for citizens and guests and staff to have that exposure to the arts. So that's something that we're working on. It's not completely developed yet. Probably 2 or 3 more meetings with the program specialists and programs ops manager. We'll have that, a more formal proposal on what that looks like. But as we started to look at spaces, it just made sense to consider other city buildings as well.
Questions or comments for Terry? Okay, great.
And I'll just add real quick, Alan, that right now as it stands, the gallery installation at Arts West for the Love of Athens photo contest will rotate to the community center as a program component.
Terry, when that takes place, can we get that up on the lighted marquee as one of the announcements that we rotate over the course of the day?
Certainly can.
Okay, great.
Alan,
Yes.
can I just say, Terry, that's really exciting to hear that you're planning on, trying to identify spaces within the city to provide that opportunity for staff, community members, et cetera. If AMAC can be of any assistance in this project, please reach out. It's a really great opportunity, I think. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea. We will definitely lean on AMAC in that respect. Trust me.
Okay, jumping ahead to our next topic area, that's parks, and the first item on the agenda, pool fees. Greg and Daniel spent quite a bit of time helping create a chart, which I'm going to put up here in a minute, looking at the various pools in southeastern Ohio. In fact, between the three of us, we covered from, Portsmouth on the south, all the way up to Frazeysburg, where the Longaberger factory used to be, over to Cambridge and clear down to Marietta, and many, many, many points in between. So what I'm going to do is put the chart up here, and then I'm going to turn it over to Greg and Daniel for any comments that they have regarding any of these items, and then we'll bring it back and focus on 3 areas that we need to discuss and eventually make recommendations to the department on. So let me get the chart up here. Where is it? Oh boy. I had it set up in advance. Well, while I'm trying to find this, Greg and Daniel, anything you just share with the group here in terms of what you found?
Well, once you get the chart up, you're going to see that it's pretty much all over the board with prices until you get down to ages 3 and under. Some pools are membership only that I found out in some of my locations. And some pools are very wide as far as family memberships go, and some don't offer family memberships. They only run on a daily entry basis. So I was kind of surprised by that and was shocked by how many pools are in the Zanesville area. Daniel, what are your first initial thoughts?
Yeah, I feel the same way. Some of the pools, I think Portsmouth didn't have a membership option. They just did daily, and you can see their rates are pretty low. They did have a difference between citizens, residents, and non. Although again, it's pretty low. Their pool is, I think it's historical landmark, or it's going to be recognized. So I don't know what the condition is. I talked Jackson. Their rates, I know that they made it sound like they would likely go up. They are also reviewing what their rates are going to be. Those rates are from 2019, so they were closed in 2020. They don't have any. I think out of the ones that I was looking at, all but one did have no difference between residents and non-residents. That's a tricky thing because when you get outside of the city, there's a lot less money. So to charge more for non-resident, that's another discussion. But I think it was so Waverly's. They don't have a city pool. Those prices seem pretty high. And that was, I believe it was the Pike County Swimming Club, I think is what that was. And I could never get through to anyone. They said they were open on Google, but that was actually from their Facebook page. So, it is all over. It seems like it's kind of hard to pin it down. I do want to say one thing. The woman from Jackson I talked to from the city, she said that they do on Tuesday nights, they would do specials where I think all adults get in for $2. And so they had some promotional things like that. So she just was passing that along, and I thought I would too.
So
I guess we really need to hear from Terry as to, I thought I heard in one of our meetings that, are we subsidized in any way through the city, or is it just totally up to the city to come up with a price based on nothing but coming up with that price? And that's, there's got to be a price that hopefully maintains something as opposed to nothing. Whether that's employees, maintenance, I don't really understand the back end of what the pool money goes towards fulfilling. So I would need to hear from Terry about what that is before I would think of a recommendation as to what to charge in all these categories. Because I think Athens is kind of different than all these other pools that I've talked to or got information on.
So to that point, Greg, I will say, and I think you've heard, some of the board members have heard me say it before, that operationally, we were within $6,000 of breaking even, which is completely unheard of for most aquatics facilities. So, I mean, our revenue goes towards operations, and the biggest chunk of that is personnel. I suggest that I'm going to throw some things out here that I just became aware of. I had a director's roundtable on reopening with directors from around the state. And to Daniel's point, it's all over the place. We're trying to gather information from pools that opened last year. Some of them did away with memberships. One of the things that some pools that did open was open by sessions or by reservations. The COVID piece being a variable there that we do have to consider, although I've reached out to the health department, and there's I think the optimism that we may not have strict COVID restrictions going into the summer, but we still have to plan that way. Let's see. I recently, I think I mentioned last meeting that I got the John Compton pricing strategies. Catherine Ann had referenced or sent us an article. A new term I've discovered, it's called horizontal inequities, and it has to do with whether it be swimming pool pricing, youth sports pricing. So I would like to get some of this information in a document and send that to Greg and Daniel and Alan, and maybe have a meeting before our April 15th meeting to take a little deeper dive. Greg, to answer your question, our fee structure does not have to go to council for approval. There are some agencies and municipalities where that is such, that you have a user fee schedule that I think it may be every 3 years, that's revisited every 3 years. As we nail these things down, that may be a direction we want to go. I've talked to the mayor about that, and he doesn't feel it's necessary at this time to have it go to council for approval. But when we do change fees, that is something I run by city administration as well. So whatever recommendation comes from the board, I will definitely get that in front of the mayor and safety services director. But I mean, to both of your points, all three, it's all over the place. One of the things I wish we had may have asked is the condition of the facility. We've got a brand new facility. What amenities are offered? I know the city of Marietta. I have had staff do some homework on this end as well, as far as reopening and looking at what some of those practices were for facilities that opened last year and what they're planning to do this year. But as I'm looking at this pricing book, what we offer has to be factored in there, as far as level of service, customer service, amenities, concession, programming, etc. So it's my hope that I pull that together in a document and I can get it to all board members, but then meet with those of you that are working on this project, if that's agreeable.
No, that sounds good, Terry. And to Greg's point about setting the price, in addition to setting the price, there are three areas that we really are going to need to take a look at in no particular order. Do we continue as we have and charge one price for all, regardless of where one lives? Or do we make the pool pricing consistent with what we do at the community center? At the community center, we have both a resident price and a non-resident price. Yet right next door across the parking lot, we have one price for all. So that's one area we're going to need to look at. A second area we're going to need to look at is the categories. As we found out, as Greg said, some of these have memberships, some don't. But for those who have either memberships or the other, some have 5 categories, some just have adults and kids. So that's a second thing we're going to need to look at, is the categories that we have. And then, of course, as Terry said, depending on COVID restrictions, we may have to visit the possibility of sessions, as we found out a couple of these places do. So yeah, Terry, if you could get that to us, soon, and then the four of us could get on a Zoom call together and dig deeper into it, and then hopefully have a recommendation at the April board meeting. Daniel, Greg, would that be agreeable to you?
Yes.
Okay, good deal.
Can I add Okay, I was gonna say I think there's a lot of things to consider, especially whenever you're talking about equity within this community specifically. And one of the things that's mentioned, because we just talked about it in my class today, so it's fresh on my mind, the pricing equity article that I shared with y'all. But there's, instead of having a membership, an option could be having, like a frequent flyer pass. So if you go in 6 times, then you get your 7th visit free, or whatever it is, so that it can be a way to actually recoup some of those losses that you get for having like a low membership. Like $190 for 6 members is not that much. It's a very good deal for someone in my income range. I don't know what it is for somebody, outside of that income range, but if somebody doesn't have like the lump sum to pay for a season pass, then perhaps a frequent flyer, incentive would be like they would actually come to the pool, spend the money, because they might be able to have $5 or $6 here and there, and then maybe they get a reward if they come 5 times. Like they get their 5th or 6th time free. I think that there's a lot of different strategies that I thought were really interesting that I would not have thought of, that were within that article, and some that were, I think, a little pretty advanced, but as far as like outside of this community. But it is important that you pay for what you get with the quality with this pool facility. That's also, but then you have to keep in mind the people outside of could use this facility not very far away, but who are they, and what sort of funds do they have, expendable funds?
Not to get too deeply into the weeds, but just to do some quick math for you, a household of 4 people with 2 adults and 2 children buying a season pass at $190 pays for itself after the 8th visit, and that's the entire summer. So if you went twice a week for 10 weeks, pay for 8 and you get 12 free. Terry, I think you were going to add something.
Yeah, I was going to say something, and then I was going to defer to Catherine on what she's seeing trending as far as resident, non-resident. This came up, I think, I don't know, a year or 2 ago, resident, non-resident fee. And the trend nationally is to go towards resident, non-resident fee. I'll just say that, Catherine Ann, if you can add anything there. And then what I wanted to say was exactly that. We can't price people out. That social equity piece is so important. And I've got to give kudos to Catherine Ann's class. I had the opportunity to visit with them for their presentation on racial equity, and the work they did is wonderful and phenomenal. I can't wait to bring it to life. Yeah, and I hope maybe the next meeting that you can hear more about that. We had a full agenda this time, but kudos to you, Catherine Ann, and your class, and that equity, social equity piece, first and foremost.
Okay, sounds good. Well, Terry, we'll look forward to that report, and then we can meet and then make have some sort of recommendation and discussion in our next board meeting. Next item on the agenda, Terry, seasonal hiring and maintenance update, please.
So, seasonal hiring, we're in the process of moving through that, and I'll just I'll lump that all in, whether it be summer camp, maintenance staff, seasonal maintenance staff, and pool staff. I don't know how I forget that. Some things that came out of the meeting yesterday was the fact that other agencies are having a hard time getting lifeguards, so that's a little concerning. Some of them have gone to contractual services for pool operations. That being one of the reasons what's happened, or the students have been away. They're not necessarily, or not. They've taken other jobs actually, and they're making more money. So, you know, Kroger's at $15 an hour, or the pool at $10. So that may be a challenge. We're working through it. We've got probably 4 applications for Headguard. We'll continue to do what we can. I asked that the board if I can get you a list of the positions that we're hiring for, if you could push that out to any resources you have, that would be really helpful, and I would appreciate it. As far as maintenance, gearing up for spring season, soccer fields have been aerated, ball fields have been aerated, new nets and goals have been put on the soccer goals, and we're going to get new nets for the tennis courts and patch those up to the best of our ability and until we can get new courts. So
all right,
that's
good.
it as far as maintenance.
All right. Terry, if it isn't up already, that might be another thing to get up on the data display board, that we're hiring for summer Parks and Rec positions. Lots of kids drive up and down East State Street, and their parents. And I know some parents at this point in time are ready to get their kids out of the house and into a job after being locked up for a year. Okay, moving on to recreation. Youth programming starts smart, Terry, and you hit on summer camps and anything else on summer camps?
Nothing else on summer camps. Again, we've reached out to the health department. We feel like we may not have the restrictions. We're 51% full within 72 hours of launching registration, so that's encouraging. Let's see, that's it for summer camp. New sports, start smart basketball, instructional fall, and soccer. We've got 63 kids registered for soccer. Those dates it'll start April 19th through May 20th. Our instructional basketball and Start Smart programs are full, which is encouraging. Preschool numbers are up. That's it on the recreation side.
And for the benefit of the viewing public, in terms of sign up for soccer, last day for registration is March 31st, so you still have about 13 days to do that. Any departmental reports that you haven't covered yet, Terry?
I don't think so, other than a few updates on just the pool facility. We've got some touch-up painting to do there. I've had a painter come in, or he's coming in to assess that. We're also going to be working with Passion Works on design and installation of passion flowers at the splash pad. That has faded considerably. The concern there is fading and investing in a design that may need to be touched up, but we'll talk through that with the painter. I have concerns about fading, whether it's pool, the slides, splash pad. This is the first time that I've worked with a salt system, so I don't know if that's indicative of the fading or what's going on. But before we make that investment, I think it's we've got to do our due diligence to see what it is we can use. We can't use any type of covering, or I'm at a loss for what word I'm looking for. But we've got to consider that that surface can't be slick. So that's exciting because I've seen the rendering from Patty Mitchell, and it's fun and it's colorful and it's the passion flower, and to look at an aerial view from that, and the passion flower being the flower for the city of Athens. I think that's what we were going for in the original design, but it was hard to convey that to Patterson Pools out of wherever they're from and have that come to life. So it's a good opportunity, again, for art and support and recognizing who we are and the passion flower. So we're also looking at a mural for the community center, and we're in discussion on that as well. And that would be at the entrance, and looking at how that project may be phased over 5 years. That mural is with Passion Works as well. We've always had the passion flowers there in the lobby area at the community center. So it's just it's a bigger take on that. And Patty Mitchell and Emily Beveridge met and decided that lobby area would be a good place to start. I think maybe phase 2 might be something at the senior end, and then we've got 2 large walls in the gymnasium. So yeah, that's that project. Bird boxes are going in at on the community center campus. Program ops manager met with someone from ODNR. There's a themed week in camp called the Great Outdoors. Feel like we install the bird boxes, get the birds nesting, then come summer, the kids can be educated on nesting, and the conversation and education will be themed with different birds from this area. Let's see, our fitness and spring fitness will start. That's been open for registration. We've got 61 registered of 110 spots. That's everything from baby yoga to Tai Chi to hip hop to ballet, boot camp, and then adult yoga. I think that's it. Anybody have any questions about programming?
Sounds like a full plate for the rest of the spring and the summer, Terry.
Hey, Terry, I was just wondering.
I feel like we've gone zero. Go ahead, Brandon.
Oh, sorry. I think, the delay is weird. I was just wondering, with the pool, do you guys have any different programming? I think you said Aaron's taken over that piece, right? I didn't know if I know with COVID, and I know that's an area like you really wanted to like hit, differently with the people there. I just didn't know if you had any ideas for the summer, not to put another thing on top of the plate of things that need to be done, but.
So, actually, George Nowicki is a facility operations manager. My charge to him has been get your CPO, which he's checked off his list, get a feel for all of our facilities. That's Community Center, Arts West, and especially the pool. That pump room is going to have his head spinning. Andrew's going to be training him on that. Seasonal hiring, everything that goes with it. So with that said, I have moved swim lessons and the programming piece, fitness programs, to Erin, who now has a full plate, and I'll work closely with her with those programs so he can focus on the mechanical operations and the day-to-day operations. That programming piece, I think that, it will be manageable by Aaron and I, so he can focus on what he needs to focus on. And that's the mechanical operations and the safety of that facility. I didn't want to change too much going in. I think with having Aaron involved, that we can look at maybe more fitness programs in the pool. We've talked about yoga in the green space, sunrise yoga class. So those will be things that we'll likely add. Again, we've got to build in, if we're still under COVID restrictions, we'll have to build in cleaning time, if we go to sessions, those kind of things. But we're open. We're open to suggestions too. Yeah, but like I was going to say, I feel like we're going from 0 to 60, and it feels really good because we've kind of been on this roller coaster. But everybody's working hard, and we're still short-staffed, and just trying to get those pieces in place as well. So we've got the green light to go ahead and hire staff and get the jobs posted. So that's encouraging. If you've got ideas, Brandon, if you want to do something at the pool once we can,
I don't want to do
people together.
Anything else. I'm not doing anything else. I'm gonna have my child, and that's it. But I was just wondering because I know that was something that we've talked about, and I just didn't know if you guys were sitting on a golden idea that maybe we could help with or something like that. I definitely understand the challenges, and it may just make sense to let's get through it because things could change, and let's just make sure it's safe and profitable in some way. But just it's such a great pool. I just know there's something that we're going to get where it's like that's the idea, that's what we did with it, and that just kicks off.
So no golden ideas yet, but I do like the idea that Catherine Ann presented about the frequent flyer. And another thing too is we have rented that little community room off the pool office in the past, and we're going to have to transition that into a lifeguard area because our lifeguard, just because of the close proximity. But what I have looked at is how we, the space right off near the splash pad, how we close that off and still make that an open air rental, and possibly put some type of tent or shade structure for birthday parties and things like that during public swim. Of course, we'll still rent the facility. And then another item that I'd like to get to is shade structure, some sort of permanent shade structure, sailcloth in the grass, over the grass areas, so we have shade. My thought is to what's the new dermatology Taj Mahal down off of East at the far end, Oakview Dermatology. There's a lot of I think there's an opportunity. I know that there's grants and things like that for shade structures. So I'd like to pursue that and see if we could partner with them either to submit a grant or if they may want to fund something.
Hey, Terry.
We need material with Passionworks flowers strung out as shade material.
Hey, Terry, I don't know if you can see the chat, but Shauna basically put out my thought as well was get a movie screen and have movie night at the pool. I know that Aaron Helms had talked about that a while ago. And I like the water theme movie like Jaws. I mean, if you do Jaws, as I saw it when I was very young, but you might want to put a cap on the, the age of people coming in. But I have always liked that idea of having an outdoor movie night. I know that Robin's Crossing did one because I went and saw Jurassic Park like 2 years ago, when you could actually go places. But having an outdoor movie night, I think, is something that there needs to be more options like that in this area.
I've seen.
So I'm glad you said that.
I was gonna say, hang on. Shh. I was gonna say I've seen things where it's like themed. obviously you'd have to close down the pools, I guess, to the public or whatever, but like I've seen like pride swim night, pride swim day, whatever. So like something that's either celebrating a specific, population or specifically for, populations to have like their own kind of celebration or experience. I'm sorry, my daughter's just talking. If that makes sense, that goes along with kind of a special event, I guess, at the pool.
So I'm glad that was brought up. I think it's been maybe 2 weeks ago, and I don't think Erin's taken me seriously, but I told her, I said, pull your quotes. I said, buy the movie screen, not thinking about necessarily the pool, but we've got to shift towards outdoor activities. So yes, I've given the green light to purchase the movie screen. I've got to get it through the auditor with good justification because our purchases are scrutinized right now. At the pool, we could do flick and float, and we just have to be sure that of the lighting with those kind of things, we still have to maintain that that our lifeguards can provide safe rescue. So we'll work through it, but I'm glad you brought that up. I hadn't even taken it to the pool yet. I just gave the green light to get the movie screen so we could start doing some things outdoors. So yes, and yes. As we try and see our way through it budget-wise, but I'm pretty comfortable with that purchase.
There may be some revenue opportunities too if we're offering those whatever Tuesday night flicks or whatever you call them in terms of sponsorships, presented by, so on and so forth. So very good. Anything else before we wrap things up here today? All right, 3 real quick things. Number 1, if you note on your agenda, the next meeting is April 15th. That is as early in the month as it can be in terms of the third Thursday. So we'll only be halfway through the month, but it will be meeting time, April 15th. Secondly, at that meeting, Catherine and or her students are going to be sharing the results of their work on racial equity with us. Looking forward to that. And finally, and we're not to dwell on this, but unfortunately, we have had, and I'm going to be very blunt, some acts of violence against the environment at Camp Rattan. Daniel and others stumbled upon some basic tree cutting down. It's now in the hands of the APD. They're doing research on that, but it appears that someone took it upon themselves to harvest perfectly good trees in some instances from city property. And whether it's city property, private property, or whatever, they did it without permission. Daniel Terry has an update on that. She could share with you if you could maybe give her a call tomorrow or Monday when she's in the office. But it's a sad, sad deal, and I just can't imagine when you walked upon that, Daniel, and saw that what was going through your head. Because that's just I saw the pictures, and it's just beyond belief. So as you're out and about, keep an eye on our parks, keep an eye on our recreation facilities, and hopefully we won't have an incident like this again. Daniel, anything you wanted to add to that? But I thought I'd be remiss if I didn't point that out to the board tonight.
No, but thank you, Alan. Thank you.
Have a motion to adjourn.
Well, Alan, I have 2 quick little comments for Terry.
Sorry.
One is that I would tap into the OU Bobcat Swim Club team for possible lifeguards. A lot of those kids stay here all summer long. They might be interested in a lifeguard position. And also in May, OU is resurfacing their tennis courts. If you want to get in touch with them, since they'll have the big crew down here from Columbus, they might be able to assist and or do your patching unless you're doing that all in-house. And that's it. That's it.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks, I appreciate it. Good.
Yeah, that's good information because you well know a good portion of the cost for things like tennis courts and all of that, where they're bringing the equipment in from a far distance, is the transportation to and from. And if they're already here, we may be able to get a lot of work done for a very, very good price. Thanks, Greg. That's great information. Anyone else?
Would Mark be my contact on that?
Probably yes.
Okay.
We don't talk to Mark anymore. He's not with us.
Right. I think I'll invite him.
See what happens, Travis? If you want to quit on us, people are going to talk about you. All right. Motion to adjourn, please.
I move that we adjourn.
And a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor, see your right hand.
Aye, aye.
Adjourned, and